We have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti podcast. There is no abstraction, there is only what is. There is only the seeing. And when you see, you act. Hello and welcome to episode 262 of Urgency of Change. Each episode of the Krishnamurti podcast is based on a significant theme of his talks. Extracts have been carefully selected to represent Krishnamurti's different approaches to these universal and timeless topics. This episode's theme is Abstraction. Upcoming themes are grief and loss, mechanical living, and talent. This is a podcast from Krishnamurti Foundation Trust, based at Brockwood Park in Hampshire, UK. Brockwood is also home to Brockwood Park School, a unique international boarding school offering a personalised holistic education. It is deeply inspired by Krishnamurti's teaching, which encourages academic excellence, self-understanding, creativity and integrity. Please visit brockwood.org.uk for more information. You can also find our regular Krishnamurti quotes and videos on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review or rating on your podcast app. This episode on abstraction has 3 sections. This first extract is from Krishnamurti's first talk in Bombay 1974 and is titled Abstractions, Conclusions and Ideas.
So that is what we are going to be concerned during these talks. Whether the human mind can regenerate itself, your mind, so that we can create together a new culture, a new society, a new way of living. That is what we are going to be concerned with all these talks. And these talks are not meant to be entertainment. You want to be entertained. You want to be told. You want to be guided. You refuse to be a light to yourself. And because you refuse that, you are brought about in the world, and especially in this country, a situation that is daily disintegrating, degenerating. The degeneration, the decline is shown when you refuse as a human being to think for yourself, when you refuse to face facts as they are, when you refuse to live a life not in abstraction but in reality. Philosophy means the love of truth. The love of truth in daily life, not an abstraction, not an ideas, speculations, suppositions. They have nothing whatsoever to do with our daily behavior, with our daily conduct. And it's only when we face that, when we perceive it, and that perception is the religious way. And as we said, this is not any kind of intellectual, emotional, or sentimental gathering. If you want entertainment, you should go somewhere else. We are here for a very serious purpose. And if you are serious, that means committed wholly to the understanding of the world about us and the world inside. If you are serious in that sense, to discover for oneself a way of living in which behavior, conduct in daily life, and bringing about a radical revolution psychologically, then such a mind is a religious mind concerned with living a life of truth every day and every minute. And as we have to use words, we must understand each other. That is, communication is possible only when you and the speaker can share together the problems and their investigation. Therefore, it is your responsibility to share, not merely listen to a series of words, form a conclusion from those words, and abstract from what is being said into an idea, a conclusion. So communication means sharing together, thinking together. It does not mean that you agree or disagree, but thinking together, observing together, sharing what we see together. then that sharing demands that you give your attention, that you hear, and not draw a conclusion. This we must go into rather deeply. The human mind, your mind, when he listens to a statement, draws a conclusion from that statement. The conclusion is an abstraction, is an idea, and then according to that idea, to that conclusion, you try to live. Whereas, what we are concerned with is not with conclusions, formulas, or ideals, but facing reality. The reality of our daily existence, our daily behavior, the way we talk, the way we live. Contradiction exists in our lives when you are conforming to a pattern as an idea. So we are not dealing with patterns. Please be very clear that we understand with each other, that we are not concerned with ideals. We are not concerned with abstractions. That there is God, no God, that you non-violence when you are utterly violent, and so on, so on. So we are only concerned with the seeing what is. And for that, you must give your energy and your attention. When you live in abstractions, as you do, then you are wasting energy, dissipating energy. When you are living in a contradiction, that is, the book says one thing and you live another way. You read the Gita or attend the classes where some person talks about it, then you are wasting energy, because that has nothing whatsoever to do with your daily conduct. And that's what you have done for centuries, for generations upon generations. And that's why your minds, your heart are dead. Because you live in abstractions. I hope you realize what we are talking about. Because this is very important. It demands the setting aside of any conclusion, of any ideal, setting aside what your gurus, your books, your religious teachers have said. That has nothing whatever to do the way you behave, conduct yourself in daily life. And a man who is serious, who sees what the world has become, He is concerned with that only and with nothing else, because that is the foundation. So if that is very clear, then we can ask whether the mind, your mind, is capable of changing itself. Because when you observe the world, what is happening there outwardly, that has been brought about by thought. The division of nationalities, the Muslim and the Hindu, the Pakistani and the India, the Catholic, the Protestant, the follower of this guru or that guru, basing your conduct on greed, envy, brutality, violence, callousness, all that has brought about the outward structure, what we call the society. We have made it. And we are the only people on earth that can change it. Not ideas, not politicians, not your gurus, not your books. Because you are the world, and the world is you. Now, you hear a statement of that kind. You are the world, and the world is you. How do you listen to that statement? What is your reaction to that statement? Are you listening or reacting to that statement? Are we sharing this together? Are we moving together? Look, you are the product of your culture. The culture, if there has been a culture in India at all, that culture has been put together by human beings who are greedy, violent, envious, ambitious, and so on. And that culture, which means a structure of education, of a religious way of life, all that past generations have built it. And human minds accept it, live with it. That's a fact. Now, when you hear that statement, the world is you and you are the world, do you draw a conclusion from it, or do you listen and see the fact of it? You understand what we are talking about? If you listen to that statement and draw a conclusion, what is the reason that I am the world, and try to say, if I am the world, what shall I do? All those are abstractions and realities. But the reality is that you are the world and the world is you. When you call yourself a Hindu, a Buddhist, Christian, all that, that is the environment, the culture in which you have grown. So you are that. And when you listen to that statement, please pay attention to what is being said. When you listen to that statement, do you hear the words, or do you directly perceive the truth of it? You understand my question? I hear that statement that I am the world and I am the world. I listen. I listen with attention. And that there is no attention if I move away from that statement. So I listen to it. I don't draw any conclusion. I don't deny or accept, but I merely attentively listen to that. Then I have energy to investigate that. I don't, if I listen with prejudice, with my particular idiosyncrasy, then I cannot possibly investigate. So I must listen to that statement with freedom. Now, are you, if I may ask, listening to that statement, actually listening and seeing whether that statement has a reality in itself, not what you think about it? So, and that statement is a reality. I am the product, as you are, of the culture in which you have lived. The culture includes the economic conditions, the religious conditions, the social conditions, your behavior, all that is involved in it. Now, do we share that together? Or are we separate in the sense that you listen, either agree or disagree, or say, what am I to do, and get frightened or and so on, so on, so on. Therefore, we're not sharing together. Sharing implies partaking together this state. And when we realize this fact, our responsibility becomes enormous. We are responsible to what is going on in the world. Either you treat that responsibility intellectually, which is verbally, or take it tremendously seriously. Now, how do you respond to that? Do you take it with immense seriousness, feeling the tremendous responsibility for it? That unless you change radically, psychologically, deeply, there can be no change in the world. Right? Since I am responsible for the misery, for the poverty, the untold sorrow of the world and of myself, the utter confusion, the brutality, the violence, the division of nationalities which bring about war, the division between religions which bring about conflict. I am responsible as a human being, and unless I radically change fundamentally, there can be a world that will disintegrate more and more and destroy itself. I will destroy my children. And our responsibility becomes enormous when that reality comes home. Right? So then, we are concerned, if you are serious, if your intention is honorable, not agreeing now and going and living differently next minute, if your intention has integrity, integrity means wholeness, completeness, not fragmentation, then we can go into this question, which is a fundamental question, whether the human mind, your mind, can bring about in itself a radical regeneration. Regeneration means to be reborn anew.
The second extract is from the second talk at Brockwood Park in 1973 and is titled, Why Does the Mind Draw Abstractions?
We are asking, what place has idea in the transformation of man? Because we have built our religions, our culture, our whole social economic system on thought, on idea, whether the communist, social, and so on. Idea. The root meaning of that word idea, which we looked up this morning, is to see. You understand? The meaning of that word idea is to see. And from the seeing, we have drawn a conclusion, an abstraction, the perfect idea, the perfect form, the perfect society, the perfect God, the perfect human being. You following all this? From the word idea, which is to see, we have drawn a conclusion, an abstraction. And from that abstraction we act. Not from the seeing. I don't know if you follow all this. So, we say action can never be perfect. Man can never be happy. Man can never be peaceful. Because we have drawn an abstraction from what is and try to approximate our action to that. And therefore there is never a complete action. All our philosophies are based on that. From the ancient Greeks to the modern. From all the ancient Hindus, the Buddhists and so on are based on this. Seeing and drawing an abstraction from what you see, which is there, and from that conclusion act. Not from seeing, acting. You understand? See what we have done. There is what is. What is, both outwardly and inwardly, actually. And I don't know the mind doesn't know what to do with what is. Therefore it draws a conclusion, an abstraction. And from that abstraction, it tries to act. Therefore action is always incomplete, therefore contradictory. Therefore bringing about misery, confusion. That's what we are doing all the time. That's what you're doing now. You are listening to words and to the explanation. And the explanation, the description, is not the described. And you're satisfied with the description. From that description is an abstraction, and you say, then, what am I to do with the abstraction? How am I to put it into action? You follow? Whereas the speaker is saying, there is no abstraction, there is only what is. There is only the seeing. And when you see, you act. Not the division between seeing and acting. I wonder if you get all this. Are we together in this? You know, if you once see this, really see this, then we have our whole movement in action is entirely different. There is no postponement of action. When you are at the edge of a precipice, which is a fact, you don't draw a conclusion, you move. Therefore, action is immediate. When you are in front of a snake, poisonous snake, there is not an abstraction an idea, a conclusion, and then movement. There is instant action. But that instant action is a part of our conditioning which has told you precipices are dangerous, snakes are dangerous, therefore avoid them. Either you act from a conclusion or from seeing what is and act instantly. I don't know if you're following all this. Are you? Are we sharing this together? Please come, let's move. So thought is a response of memory, experience, knowledge. So, what place has knowledge in the transformation of man? See, this is your problem. You understand, sir? You have accumulated tremendous knowledge. Psychologically, in every field of human behavior, human existence. You have tremendous knowledge about meditation, Zen, transcendental, all the latest idiocy, all the absurd things that are going on. You have accumulated a great deal. You know what war is. You have suffered tremendously with the last two wars. Accumulated all that knowledge. And yet you are going on in the same pattern. You're following all this? You are sending your children to be killed, to educate, to destroy. The other day, I turned on the television and young people were being interviewed. And they asked, would you fight for your country? Every one of them said they would. Not like the people before the war. They said they wouldn't fight for king or country or for anybody. Now they would. And you know what war is. What appalling thing it is. And yet you are sending your children, educating them to destroy each other. That's a fact. And what place has that knowledge in your life? Will it transform your way of thinking? Because you have experienced two wars? Oh, come on, sir. Will you change the whole system of your education? The division of nationalities? Sovereign governments? Preparing for wars? It's a game you are all playing. You're not serious. And that's what... Right? So, let's go back. What place has knowledge? In the transformation of your mind, of your behavior, of your conduct. Knowledge Maybe it's a symbol, an image, a conclusion, a field of the known. And why does the mind always cling to the known, which is knowledge? You're following all this? Why? You have had experiences of war, the suffering, the torture, the fear, the appalling noise, the destruction. And has that changed the human mind? Has it changed your mind? And why hasn't it? Why does the mind, your whole being, cling to the known? Is it fear? Or is it the pleasure in the known? Or the feeling of security in the known? After all, when you are brought up in a culture, and all cultures are the known, obviously, because they're based on thought. Thought may imagine a perfect God, a perfect Savior, a perfect human being, but it's still thought. And has it any place at all except in the field of action where the known must be applied? Technology, medicine. Please follow all this. It's your life. Don't waste it. We have a few years to live. Don't destroy it. Knowledge has its place. When you drive a car, when you speak a language, when you function in the field of technology, there knowledge must exist. Science is all that is based on knowledge. So where does knowledge begins to destroy the human mind? We see the importance of knowledge. Otherwise you and I couldn't understand each other because we both speak English. Or if we both spoke French, it's all right. But if we both speak English, that implies knowledge. Knowledge has its place, and when that knowledge is used for self-centered activity, the me and the you, my country and your country, my government, all the rest of it, then that knowledge becomes a destructive knowledge, obviously. Right, sirs? You're following all this. Not verbally, but with your heart, with your depth of your being. So we see that idea, the meaning of that word idea is to see. And the mind sees very clearly but immediately draws an abstraction from the seeing. Why does it do it? I see that I'm a Hindu. Stupid. Call oneself a Hindu or a Christian. Probably Christians have killed more than anybody else. So don't call yourself Christians anymore, or Hindus anymore. Anyhow, I see that I'm a Hindu. I call myself Hindu. I see very clearly what it does. Separates me from another. Separate my tradition, my upbringing, my culture. Separates me from you. I see that very clearly. Actually see it. And then I draw a conclusion that it is terrible to be divided. It destroys people. An abstraction from the seeing. Then I ask myself, now how am I to put that abstraction in action? Then I want a method to put that conclusion in action. Then there are a dozen people who will give you the method. The socialists, communists, the religious people, the latest gurus and all the rest of it. You're following all this? So can the mind observe, see, and not draw a conclusion? And why does the mind draw a conclusion, an abstraction from what is? Is it an evasion of action? Because if you saw and acted, that action may lead you to all kinds of troubles. Therefore, an abstraction is a safe thing to do, because you can postpone action. Therefore, you live a very, very superficial life. You can never penetrate in depth, because you have always this conclusion. So, in conclusions, in formulas, in symbols, in the known, there is safety. And the mind says, the brain says, I must be completely safe. Otherwise I can't function. You're following all this? If it is not safe, secure, it cannot function effectively. Therefore, it seeks security in a belief, in a conclusion, in an abstraction, in a symbol, and in neurotic behavior. Because if I act neurotically, there is safety in that. In a conclusion that I am a Hindu, in that there is safety. So the mind sees absolutely what is, can't help it. It's all in front of you. The war, the stupid religious organizations, all that is very clear. And yet the mind accepts that, lives in that, because it feels completely secure. And when it discards the old, it joins the new. the new guru, the new racket, and the new circus that's going on. So can the mind see and act? That's the real problem. So, will knowledge prevent the seeing and therefore acting instantly? You're following? Because life is action in relationship. And what place has knowledge in action, in relationship? Because we can't live alone. It's not possible. You may think in abstraction that you live alone. You cannot live alone. You live in relationship with another. And in that relationship between human beings, there is constant battle. Between man, woman, husband, wife, boy, the whole field. And what place has knowledge in relationship? Because if knowledge cannot transform, bring about harmony in relationship, then why do we cling to knowledge? I don't. So in relationship, we're asking what place has knowledge? Knowledge being the symbol, the image, the conclusion. I know you, the image which I have built about you, which is knowledge, which is based on thought, a conclusion, and that image I have built about you, and you have built about me. Don't you know this? Don't you do this all the time? Let's be honest, for goodness sake. And that knowledge, that image, that symbol, the words, which is the known, the knowledge, isn't that a barrier between you and me? Come on, sir. So, can there be a relationship in which the past never enters? Isn't that love? Oh, come on, sir. Are you working as hard as the speaker to convey something which is so simple? Because we are so conditioned by idea, by conclusions, by abstractions, by symbols, by images, which are all the known, built by thought. Can there be a relationship in which the image is not. Have you ever tried it? No. Now listen. You know what your relationship with another is? Very clearly. You see it. The quarrels, the indignities, the flatteries, the sexual pleasures, the comfort, the relationship between you and another. You see it, don't you? Why do you draw a conclusion from it? Is it because you are trained, educated to live in strife? Because you know nothing else. And therefore you accept this misery. And therefore, the fear of a relationship in which the known, the image doesn't exist.
The final extract in this episode is from Krishnamurti's fourth talk in New Delhi in 1964 and is titled Fear is Not an Abstraction.
Do watch yourself, please. You're not listening to me. Watch your own life and you see how deeply, longingly, the more capacity you have, the more intelligence, the more drive you want to fulfill, you want to be somebody. Which means when you want to be somebody, this desire to self-fulfill, either in God or in an idea, which God is an idea, or in a state or in the family, what is implied in this self-expression? You want to be, and the you is merely an idea, an abstraction, a memory. And that is one of the great sources of fear. So there is ambition, authority, self-expression, and there is the fear of the tomorrow. Now, what is fear? Fear cannot exist by itself. It's not an abstraction. An abstraction comes into being only when you run away from fear into an idea, into a concept, into certain activities. Suppose one is afraid and your mind is incapable of facing it. Any activity arising, any thought, any activity arising from that escape, from that flight, from the fact of fear breeds abstraction, a life of contradiction. A life of contradiction breeds more fear, more conflict, more all the complexities of existence. So you have to understand fear. Because fear breeds illusion. fear makes the mind dull. I do not know if you have not noticed, when you are frightened, for various reasons, how your mind absolutely withdraws, isolates itself, and it looks immediately to somebody to help it out. It builds a wall around itself, either through various activities, through lies, through every form of activity except to face that fact. So we are going to face that fact this evening. Not my fear, not the speaker's fear, but your fear. How to understand that fear. And the understanding of that fear is the freedom from that fear. And we are going into that. We are going to take a journey into it. We are going to together commune with that thing which we call fear. Because one has to see the importance of understanding fear. It is a necessity to understand it. I mean, a mind that lives in fear is a dead mind, is a dull mind, a mind that cannot look, see, hear clearly, directly. So it is very important in understanding relationship with each other, with society, with everything, to understand and be free of fear. Totally, not partially, not fragmentarily, not at various occasions, but completely. I say it is possible, and we'll go into it. So, fear is not an abstraction. Is not a thing from which you can run away. It is there. Whether you run away for a day or for a year, some time, it catches you up. It comes wherever you are, it goes with you. You may turn your eyes away from it. It is there.